Welcome back to the introduction of the new structural regional economics. In this lecture, you'll learn the second section of Chapter 7. We will take the economic revitalization of Jilin province in China as an example to learn about the growth identification and industrial policy of new structural regional economics. Industrial policy is of great importance to the development of regional economy, which is also the key issue underscored in the new structural regional economics. How to formulate a reasonable industrial policy for regional comparative advantage to promote regional economic development? Let's see if we could get an answer. This picture shows the specific location of Jilin, an important province in the central part of northeast China, one of China's vital grain production bases, as well as a key industrial base in China. The status of Jilin in China can be described as follows. Its administrative area accounts for about 2% of China. The population accounts for about 2% of China. The current proportion of its GDP is also close to 2% of China as well. Hence, the endowment structure of Jilin and its comparative advantages must be multi-dimensional and multi-level. Currently, Jilin is at the development stage where its GDP is roughly equivalent to that of New Zealand, and its per capita income level is roughly equivalent to that of Gabon in Africa. In 2015, Jilin province's per capita income reached approximately $8,325, ranking 12th among all provinces in China, which is comparable to the national average income level. But when compared with other provinces in China, the gap is quite large. For example, the per capita income of Jilin is only equivalent to 59% of Jiangsu and 65% of Zhejiang. In terms of growth potential, there is still a large gap between Jilin and those leading regions in China and in the world. This also means that the overall advantages of industrial upgrading and technological process in Jilin still have a lot of room for improvement. Hubei province and Chongqing city, which are at the same stage of development as Jilin, have achieved rapid growth already. Let's see. In 2015, the per capita GDP of Jilin was comparable to that of Hubei province and Chongqing city. But in 2016, when the GDP growth rate of Hubei was 8.1% and the GDP growth rate of Chongqing was 10.7%, Jilin was only 6.9%. This shows that even when comparing Hubei and Chongqing, which are at the same development level like Jilin, it's still totally possible for the latter one to find new growth point that could accelerate its GDP growth rate by 1.2% to 3.8%. We take a further look at the problems facing the development of Jilin. First and foremost, its structural issues. With a comprehensive industrial system, Jilin has abundant natural resources, human capital, and material capital endowment. The slowdown of Jilin's economic growth is mainly manifested in the secondary industry, especially industrial manufacturing. More specifically, the sharp decline in industrial growth is mainly manifested in heavy industry. What makes the issue more severe is that the proportion of heavy industry in Jilin far exceeds that of light industry, resulting in a serious economic downturn. Among the added value of industries above designated size in 2016, the added value of heavy industry exceeded 400 billion yuan, while the added value of light industry reached less than 200 billion yuan. Second, the system and institutional problems of Jilin are prominent. The distortion of the light and heavy industrial structure in Jilin has brought critical complications, such as severe loss of labor in employment, great shortage of exports, fewer enterprises in industrial agglomerations, inefficient state-owned enterprises, and distorted institutional mechanisms, making it difficult to activate the vitality of private economy. The capital-intensive, heavy industry-dominated industrial structure has led Jilin to a situation where there are industries yet no employment, and the development strategy runs counter to its comparative advantages. So how to crack these tricky problems? In 2011, Professor Lin Yi-Fu and Manga first put forward an operation tool named Growth Identification Facilitation Framework, GIFF, based on the policy practice of large amount of developing economies after the Second World War. This tool could help Jilin design a technical route to perform economic transformation and upgrading. The specific process is as follows. Step 1. Each local government in Jilin can determine a list of tradable goods and services. Step 2. Analyze the industries in which local private companies are already active and examine which infrastructure and institutional barrier hinder these companies from improving product quality or stop other companies from getting on board to form an industrial cluster with competitive advantages. The third step is to improve infrastructure or institutional environment in a targeted manner. The fourth step is to use the special resource endowment in the region or global and national technological breakthroughs to bring new opportunities. Step 5. In the case of inability to improve the infrastructure and business environment in the entire region, resources can be concentrated to establish special economic zones or industrial parks to overcome the difficulties encountered by private enterprises in entering the field of infrastructure construction, as well as the obstacles foreign investments may face when investing in hard and soft infrastructure. Sixth, give leading enterprises in the target industry a periodic tax incentives and loan preferences, provide industry guidance funds, or grant foreign exchange quotas to support imported technologies and equipment. Fully exploit facilitating methods for catching up industries, leading-edge industries, comparative advantage losing industries, short innovation cycle industries, and strategic industries to give full play to the advantages of Jilin's economic structure transformation and upgrading. For the first type, catching up industries, governments at all levels in Jilin can support qualified local companies proceed overseas mergers or mergers in other regions in financing and foreign exchange acquisition. Enterprises with advanced technologies in similar industries shall be used as the source of technological innovation industry upgrades. Second, for the leading-edge industries, leading enterprises with conditions may be encouraged to set up innovation centers and cooperate with research institutions of universities or research institutes to have breakthroughs in new technologies and new products. For example, companies could cooperate with Jilin University by adopting an approach of integrating production, teaching, and research. In addition, local governments should provide relevant companies that are expanding business overseas with talent training, capital, and legal service support. As for the comparative advantage losing industries, they can transfer surplus production capacity in the form of direct investment to countries along the Belt and Road and those developing countries with large investment needs in infrastructure, which will not only free these enterprises from difficulties, but also help developing countries develop. It's a choice for win-win. Next, what can the local government do for short innovation cycle industries? Jilin, especially its capital city Changchun, where colleges and universities are concentrated, can establish incubation bases for the development needs of enterprises in Type 4, strengthen intellectual property protection, encourage venture investment, formulate preferential talent policies and tax policies, support innovative talent entrepreneurship, and use domestic advantages to promote the development of short innovation cycle industries in Jilin. Last but not least, for strategic industries, Jilin province has a number of military industries. The government can guide the localized integration of Jilin's aviation and aerospace industries. Local enterprises can choose to develop emerging national strategic industries that are in line with Jilin's comparative advantages. At the same time, the government needs to improve the soft and hard conditions such as infrastructure, children's education, and living environment to provide support for the introduction of talent. As we've come to the last part of the lecture, here are some references related. All right, the above is our introduction to the new structural regional industrial policies. We hope that through the case of the economic revitalization of Jilin province, you can better understand the Growth Identification Facilitation Framework, GIFF, of the new structural regional economics. That's all. Thank you.